Hello fans, fanettes, and everybody else. I want to talk to you today about VenomFangX, otherwise known as Shawn. You see, he recently had to learn a tough life lesson. Come on, Shawn, admit it. Must have been difficult for you considering that you haven't done much growing up in quite a while. Folks, I'm going to tell you what has just transpired. Well, some of it is officially, and some of it is unofficially. To our little buddy. None of what I will say is secret, and there may be some guesswork towards the end, but it's all based on facts and experience. Overall, I believe that this video will prove to be quite interesting, especially when you discover how Shawn has lost control of his own channel. Yes, he's now become the mouthpiece for Jews for Jesus. He's gonna yell and scream and claim that, this is not true, but I know better. Does that sound interesting to you? If so, stick with me a little longer, and you'll find out what really happened in Shawn's life the last 2 weeks. It all started on the 20th of May when the True Puka turned the spotlight on VenomFangX because our favorite Jew turned born-again Christian had basically said back in 2007 that the Holocaust was brought on by a curse. Now, Shawn, I don't want to put words in your mouth, so I'll let you say it in your own words. People, watch and listen carefully.
We read in Deuteronomy 28, a book written by Moses, a curse that was promised to the Israelites if they rejected their God. Now, if we look at recent tragedies, and there are tragedies like the Holocaust, we can't say that was God's blessing on Israel. That was clearly not a blessing. So it seems to me Israel has rejected their Messiah. I can't explain it any other way. The promises of the curse on Israel if they rejected their God have come true. Deuteronomy 28 has come true. And so, God said to the Jewish people, if you break covenant with me, if you disobey me, if you reject my Messiah, then this is going to happen.
Now, why were these comments so important that the True Puka felt it was necessary for him to address them nearly half a decade after they had been made? It's simple. It's because VenomFangX is about to join the American missionary team of Jews for Jesus. And Puka brought this whole topic to the attention of Venom's new bosses. Many people thought it was dog dropping, but to me, it was clearly not the case. Not only that, but I was pretty sure that he was just trying to coax the Jews for Jesus into giving an official Christian position to explain the Holocaust. So, what did the officials from Jews for Jesus end up doing? Officially, they did what any good politician does when he's given a very uncomfortable topic to cover. So, they just kept their mouths shut. Jews for Jesus ended up with quite a thorn in their side when they discovered that VenomFangX made a video trying to clarify his old position. But his explanation only served to muddle the waters, and his new employer told them to take his video down until further notice. And the video is still down, by the way. Sadly for Shawn, a lot of us already had copies of this clarification, which is why you saw some of it, as well as his video from 5 years ago. Now, I should explain to you that I was involved in some of what happened. Last Friday, I commented on a Rosebush video complaining that I wouldn't be able to discuss this topic for a while. Here's why. For those of you who may not know it, I am a journalist. I wrote professionally for 13 years until I was forced to retire because of multiple sclerosis. But I'm keeping my toes wet, producing The Infidel, a YouTube news show for the non-religious people who are curious about what's going on in the religious world. As soon as the True Puka made his first video, I immediately saw the potential for a great story. If I was going to be lucky enough, I might be able to convince Jews for Jesus to give a Christian explanation for what happened to the Jewish people during World War II. I immediately attempted to get in touch with all parties involved. I was able to reach both VenomFangX and the Trupuka. At first, Shawn was quite chatty, promising me an interview as soon as things were cleared up with his bosses. As far as Jews for Jesus was concerned, well, they just chose to ignore me. But I gave everybody the same deadline, Friday the 25th at noon. Shawn explained to me that he had been told by Jews for Jesus to remove his video. That's how I know that they made him remove it. When it became clear that his new employers were not going to speak to me, he asked if I could delay my story because he had an appointment on the 28th with the Canadian boss of Jews for Jesus, and that he would try to get me some answers. Well, I told them that I was simply going ahead without their input, knowing full well that it was not in their interest to talk to me. It turns out that I was quite right, and they didn't answer my questions. They didn't answer on Monday, or Tuesday, or Wednesday, or Thursday, or today. Nobody's talking to me. And Shawn is one of those who's not talking to me anymore either. Oh well, I thought my questions were quite simple and easy to answer. Is God just? And if so, is it justified when someone incurs God's wrath or curse? Do we deserve what we get in this life if we do not accept Jesus Christ as our Savior? Is rejecting Jesus Christ the equivalent of turning our back on God Himself? And my last question brings us back to the very first two. If you consider that God is just, then we must conclude that His wrath must always be just. Or, in other words, that we deserve what we get. Finally, considering this Christian view of godly justice, wasn't the Holocaust the wrath of God wrapped in the Nazi flag? After all, He did allow for His chosen people to be practically eliminated from the surface of the earth. And they've always rejected Jesus Christ, haven't they? They still do. Shawn said just about everything except that the Holocaust was the result of God's wrath because they had not accepted Jesus as their Savior. But listen again to his explanation. Even if he doesn't use the exact words, isn't that what he says anyway?
I can't explain it any other way. The promises of the curse on Israel if they rejected their God have come true. Deuteronomy 28 has come true. And so, God said to the Jewish people, if you break covenant with me, if you disobey me, if you reject my Messiah, then this is going to happen.
Now, Shawn, I'm talking to you. I realize that you did not say word for word that the Jewish people deserved the Holocaust. But as a French person, I can't help but be reminded of an old Canadian expression. And it is, une pièce pour 4 sous. It's the equivalent of your English 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. Now look at this picture carefully. Do you see the loonie? And for the non-Canadian, a loonie is $1 in Canada. Do you see the 4 quarters next to it? How about the 10 dimes? You are free to describe this picture the way you want. You can say, I see a loonie, I see 4 quarters, I see 10 dimes. And you can refuse to say, I see $1, $1, $1. But the fact remains the same. It's 3 units representing $1. You've got a loonie, you've got quarters, you've got dimes. It all represents $1. So, without saying $1 per se, you can say 4 quarters. And that's exactly what you do with your videos. You keep talking about God's wrath, God's curse, but you refuse to say whether or not it was deserved. If we are to follow any apologist's logic, God is just in everything he does. And if that's so, the conclusion becomes inescapable. The Holocaust must have been deserved. Didn't people deserve the flood, when all of humanity was destroyed and all the animals were killed except for whatever could be fit onto Noah's Ark? So if those people deserve what they got back then, how does it work for the Jews? Was God just? You keep saying 4 quarters, 10 dimes, 1 loonie, and you refuse to say $1. Why are you so stubborn? But enough of you. I'll get back to my viewers. How can I say that VenomFangX lost control of his channel? It's quite simple, you'll see. At the beginning of May, he made another one of his money-begging videos, except that this time he used some promotional material from Jews from Jesus. He ended up mixing together his personal life and his professional life. And that was the end for him. That was the end of the control of his channel. He gave full control of his channel to Jews for Jesus. Because from then on, anything he said, anything he did as VenomFangX, it reflected on Jews for Jesus. And this organization cannot allow any Joe Blow to look bad on them. So, what did they do when he did a video that they did not approve?
And so, God said to the Jewish people, if you break covenant with me, if you disobey me, if you reject my Messiah, then this is going to happen.
Yeah, shut up.
Ask Shawn. He'll tell you. They made him take it away right away. Now, last Monday, he met with Andrew Barron. On their website, on the Jews for Jesus website, it says he's a good little Jewish boy from New York. But he's also the director of Jews for Jesus in Canada. And on Monday, I believe Shawn was taught how to toe the company line. Because from that point on, the man who had been so eager to answer my questions didn't speak to me again. Then, 4 days later, he came up with his final video.
I don't believe, nor have I ever said, that the Jewish people deserved the Holocaust and the terrors, the tortures, the murders that they experienced because they rejected Jesus as their Messiah, nor has Jews for Jesus ever said that, nor do they believe that.
But because I am a journalist, I'm very familiar with the way things are handled in management and in government. So, when somebody is putting together an official response, it can take quite a bit of time. It has to be done just right. For example, I know of an Ontario civil servant who had to rewrite a letter 28 times until he finally satisfied the politician for whom he was working. Shawn had to come up with a video that said nothing. That doesn't explain why the Jews did or did not deserve the Holocaust. Here's another thing I learned when I dealt with governments and politicians. The politicians do not like it when their employees speak to the media. It's a case of keep your mouth shut and don't say anything unless I tell you to say something. And when you do, you say what I want you to say, nothing else. Well, guess what's happening with Shawn? He's ignoring me now. He's ignoring the topic at hand. He is just towing the line. He is saying what Jews for Jesus want him to say. So I'd like to conclude this video by addressing Shawn / VenomFangX directly. Shawn, how did it feel on Monday when you were told, from now on, this is what you're going to do, and this is how you're going to do it? How did it feel when you realized you had lost control of your channel? Or have you realized it yet? Because from now on, you know you cannot say or do everything that pleases you, because you could upset your boss, and you can't do that anymore. You have someone to answer to for your actions. I guess they also taught you that saying, "No, I didn't," is an acceptable answer as far as they're concerned. And that you do not have to explain yourself every time someone is not satisfied with that "No, I didn't." I wonder how many versions of your script you had to write before they were satisfied, before your masters was satisfied. Or did they just hand you a new script and said, "Go to it"? On Monday, when you saw Mr. Barron, did you do as I suggested to you a couple of days before and said, "Yes, sir," "No, sir"? "What story, sir? I've never said anything about that, and I'm never going to say anything unless you want me to"? Did you do that? Because that's what I suggested you should do if you knew what was good for yourself.